And wow, bright and early we are today. In fact, I thought this was starting at 9:30, so I'm jumping in early for myself today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pam Steager. I am with the Rhode Island Civic Learning Coalition. I'm the Director of Public Engagement for Courageous Rhode Island, and I am a team member for the Media Education Lab. And this is a session on how to be a courageous citizen in a world of weaponized words. We have been asked to record each session, so if you need to make any adjustments to your name or image, please do so now. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to introduce yourself and where you're calling in from in the chat. As I said, I'm Pam Steager, and I'm calling in from Jamestown, Rhode Island this morning. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share some of the key ideas that we hope to explore in this session. They are media and technology play a significant role in amplifying hate. And that is why the Department for Homeland Security, which has funded Courageous RI project, agreed that media literacy is in fact a prevention tool to targeted violence and domestic terrorism. Another thing we want to explore is why words, images, and stories are used strategically by extremists, and why civic learning and civic engagement matter. We're going to share a bit of what we've experienced and learned about being courageous and about online attacks. And we're going to share some strategies we're exploring for countering hate. So first off, for those of you who aren't already familiar with Courageous RI, here's a quick overview. Courageous Rhode Island is an initiative of the Media Education Lab. It's funded, as I said, by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security that uses media literacy and 3 other key strategies to reduce the fear and hate that can lead to violence. It includes 3 programs targeted at 3 different audiences. The first program, Courageous Conversations, consisted of 9 online sessions open to anyone. The second was a 6-session professional development program open to middle school, high school, and college educators. And the third, which is currently underway, is a youth media contest open to students in middle school, high school, and college. Courageous Conversations were designed to enhance participants' media literacy skills and civic engagement, and to practice active listening and finding common ground through facilitated small group conversations with diverse participants and discussion guidelines. Our mantra was stay curious, not furious, and our goal was to have conversations, not confrontations. The guidelines were carried into the professional development program as well, and we feel that they are good basic guidelines to have for any attempts at respectful discussion and courageous citizenship. All 3 programs emphasize the role of our 4 key prevention strategies as tools to reduce the fear and hate that can lead to violence in schools and communities. They are media literacy, which is the critical analysis of any media message, or just asking questions about what you read, see, watch, hear, listen to, play. Active listening is listening to understand, not to argue. Kindness and compassion are the abilities to be with the suffering of others and to show kindness towards others. Community engagement or civic engagement is becoming active in community activities, civic groups, government, politics, etc. Most of these topics covered in Courageous Conversations were also addressed in the professional development program, along with some specific classroom strategies. Before we go any further, I want to clarify the definitions we use for some other key words, because words and definitions matter. So we consider courage the mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or just difficulty. Cancel culture is the practice of tendency of engaging in mass canceling as a way of expressing disapproval and exerting social pressure. Cyberbullying is the electronic posting of mean-spirited messages about a person, such as a student, often done anonymously. Online trolling means to harass, criticize, or antagonize someone, especially by provocatively disparaging or mocking public statements, postings, or acts. We've also discovered the term conflict entrepreneur in the process of creating Courageous Rhode Island. A conflict entrepreneur is defined as someone who inflames conflict for their own ends, for such example, profit or power. Extremist groups. Now here I'm going to go to my friend Umberto Eco, who shares that a democratic civilization will save itself only if it makes the language of the image into a stimulus for critical reflection, not an invitation for hypnosis. And images and deconstructing images are a very big part of media literacy, since our world is so visual these days with all our new media. So what we're looking at now, when I say the term extremist groups, I think many of you may get the kind of images that are posted here in your mind. White supremacy extremism, such as that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. Anti-government extremism that happened on January 6th in 2020. And however, extremists, and the definition of extremists is that extremists seek radical change in society, stemming from their religious, social, or political belief systems. And so with that definition, Susan B. Anthony and every suffragette in every country that ever were activists for a woman's right to vote can be considered extremists. And members of the civil rights and gay rights movements that were activists are extremists that seek radical change in society, stemming from their religious, social, or political belief systems. So extremism, just like propaganda, these words aren't necessarily bad words. It's how they play out that makes the difference. So the extremist groups that we're worried about and that we're trying to prevent the growth of are those that turn to violence. So here is some of what we've learned about preventing targeted violence and terrorism, and in dealing with some of the attacks from some of the players that we've just discussed. Media literacy matters. It really is important that we all, as active citizens, are media literate, which means to ask questions about what we're reading, what we're watching, what we're hearing, what we're playing, and what those around us are. If we have children, what video games are they playing? If we have students, what are they paying attention to? What music are they listening to? And do they know how to analyze the messages that they're getting? It's important to notice how words are weaponized. And it's also important to notice the use of stories to persuade. One of the things we've learned is that facts, and most of us know this now, don't seem to make people change their minds about things that they have strong beliefs about, but stories sometimes do. And you'll see that more often when you are aware of that, you'll realize that someone is telling a story to help persuade. Notice what techniques are used to grab and hold your attention. That comes right from our key questions of media literacy on our media literacy smartphone that you see to the right. This is something we use all the time, and media literacy advocates around the country and around the world sometimes use different questions, more questions, less questions. These are the ones that we think are the most basic that everyone should get to know um, internally. Who's the author and what's their purpose in creating this message? What techniques are used to attract and hold your attention? What lifestyles, values, and points of view are being represented here? How might different people interpret the message? And what is omitted from the message? Another important thing to remember is to look into the sources of the message and to fact check. One of the things I do when I get, as a senior citizen, I get all kinds of scam messages a lot of the time, figuring that I will fall for almost anything, because my age group is one of the cohorts that is the most vulnerable to misinformation, because we grew up in a time where we could trust the media, or thought we could, because we only had 3 channels on TV and we all watched the news at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So the first thing I do is to go right up to the email address. You can put anything you want as the name of where it's coming from, but the email address has to show you the real email address. And if it doesn't check out to what the message is telling me, I immediately delete and report as junk. Pay attention to emotional content, including your own, and think before you overreact. We have realized that when we get attacked, we have emotional responses to that. But thankfully, we have learned to take deep breaths, to talk it over with others, to think before we overreact to whatever the attack is. And a big thing is stay curious, not furious. Ask questions again. Asking questions is so key to finding true understanding and common ground. And avoid being part of the blame and shame game. A few other things that we've found to be helpful are to have conversations, not confrontations. That includes listening first to understand and then to be understood. And don't feed the trolls. That's pretty much a standard on the internet, is that when you are attacked by trolls, don't respond to them. That's what they're looking for. They're looking to get a reaction. And the not feeding the algorithm, we have learned, is a great way of not giving them even the likes or the hits on the website or the links that they're sending. So one of the things that we were shown by a media consultant was that if you make a PDF copy of some kind of disparaging media message and send that to people that you want to share it with to get some feedback or to get some sympathy, that is then not continuing to allow the link to get more hits and more likes, and that's one of the other things that they're looking for, because that's money in the internet world. Find your allies. There is strength in numbers, and you should never go it alone when you're being attacked. So reach out and find others. Identify your community and get involved in it, whatever that community is for you. Kindness and compassion matter too. Remember that hurt people hurt people. And so we are constantly asking, how can we intervene with those who are hurting? Because that's what leads to violence in so many ways. So we know we don't have all the answers. And in the process of implementing Courageous RI, we have discovered even more questions, of course, such as what do people need to know about social media economics and the profit motives that underpin conflict? Why do stories, characters, and conflict change minds? How do we decide who to trust? How are digital technologies influencing people and their understanding of free speech, hate speech, and censorship? And who is targeted to receive harmful propaganda? And how does it affect them? We've also become more confident in the process that our 4 key strategies are effective violence prevention tools and should be in every courageous citizen's toolbox. So at this point, we'd like to have some group discussions about what I've shared so far and to hear about your own experiences or thoughts on these matters. We'll do a quick reminder about our courageous conversation guidelines. Yep, sorry. So whenever we have a discussion, we ask you to speak for yourself and out of your own experiences. Allow others to speak for themselves. Share the time. Don't hog all the air. Allow others to finish speaking before you speak and take turns. Stay curious. Ask honest questions. Take a time to pause, a time for reflection, especially if you're feeling an emotional response. Practice active listening. Listen generously. Assume good intentions while also recognizing that your own words have an impact. And stay engaged. When possible, close unnecessary programs, applications, and notifications, and put your phone on silent so you can truly be with us. Okay, Renee, are we going to do a large group or a break into some breakout rooms?
Pam, that is up to you. What's the focus question you want us to discuss?
Well,
I was about weaponized words.
Yeah, definitely. Something about weaponized words or any comments that people have on what I've shared so far. Some of you I'm seeing here are people who have a good understanding about Courageous RI. So you can share that with others if they have questions about that. And others may just want to talk about their own experiences of being silenced or cyberbullied or anything like that. So can you think of a question, Renee, that has specifically to do with weaponized words that we can give them?
I wonder how people in this room have encountered weaponized words in their own lives.
That's a great way to start off.
Okay, the rooms are open. Make a new friend. We'll talk for about, what, 6, 7, 8 minutes, right?
Right.
All right, for those of you who are in the main room, I'm here. I'm curious, how have weaponized words affected your life? How have you experienced them?
Wow, as always, not enough time for great conversations. This is a hallmark of Media Ed Lab events and webinars is that we come back from breakout rooms with so much more that we've learned and heard about. So I'd love to just take a few minutes. Where are we on time? Oh my goodness, we are almost over time. And so I think I'm just going to thank everyone so much for showing up today. We definitely, can you go just back quickly to the youth media contest? If you know any creative youth in any of our 4 categories, video, audio, graphic design, or writing, have them look up on our website, courageousri.com, and find out about our youth media contest and our partners, the Rhode Island Media, Civic Learning Coalition has asked that you fill out this 5-minute survey so that we can make it even better next year and give you even more kinds of workshops that you'd like to have. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. We'll stay on the line a little bit longer in case anybody has some burning questions that they need to talk. But then I think we need to maybe start session 2 if the 9:30 people are showing up. Thanks again for coming.
Thanks, Pam.